Hey everyone, it's Jacqui Lewis, clinical nutritionist for BN Multi. It's Tuesday again. Who would know? I don't even know what day it is anymore. And I'm not even in New South Wales, where I'm sure they don't know what day it is anymore. So firstly, just hoping everyone's managing okay with the strange world we're living in currently. And I also would like to get your feedback on anything that you are having difficulty with or that you'd like some more input in as far as the conditions that we're living in goes. So are you finding it easier to maintain a routine because maybe you're working at home and you've got a bit more time, you don't have to travel to and from work? Or are you finding it it's quite hair-raising and young kids are home and all that sort of thing is getting in the way of consistency? I know exercise is a bit of an issue, so pop your comments in for the areas that you're struggling with and we can have a look at those during the week. I think that'd be a good place to start, and it's relevant, so it'll help everybody as well. So we're in Queensland. We're locked in until Sunday. We can walk dogs if we wear masks, and if we're heavily exercising, we don't have to wear a mask. But yeah, so this week we're talking about protein in the group and in the poll, and also pussycat in the background. In the group. So we've got some questions. We've got the results of the poll, and we have the result of Transformation Tuesday as well. Also, we're going to run the live once a month. We would like to bring it to you in a bigger platform, a bit more comprehensive, and we'd like more time to collate the information that you're looking for to best, answer your questions and keep you entertained and educated. The other thing I'll do at the end of the live is I'll post a few different updates on relevant information around COVID-19 vaccination. I watched a fantastic webinar last night, and I have 24 hours to share it before it's a paid per view. And Carolyn Ladowski put it together. I podcasted with her earlier in the year. She runs a business called MTHFR Support. And I have a lot of respect for her understanding of the area. And I also like her holistic view. And I also appreciate her her advice. So I think there's some really poignant topics covered within the webinar. One of them is, how nutritionally sound are you before you have your vaccine, or before you have you can prepare for vaccine and prepare for recovering from vaccine. And there's a few key nutrients that are mentioned in the webinar as well. And I just think to gain as much insight as you possibly can and make informed choices, I think we're in a position where we have a few options. We don't necessarily have that freedom of having it or not having it, but to go into it, I think, in the best way that you possibly can is a pretty important thing to do, and to know that you're confident that you've made the decision that you can sit with as well. And I'd like to bring that to you later on this evening. So I'll post that in the group. I've also got a couple of other things I'll post. There's a protein tracker. You can put in any kind of food and it gives you an accurate understanding of how much protein is in it. So without further ado, it's nice to see you all here. Everyone's at home. They've got time to watch all these kooky things on Facebook. It's great. So let me find my questions. Here they are. I'll just share my page so I can show you the poll from last week. Again, I think because people are at home, they've got time to think about these kind of things, which is good. Let me just see if I can find, just a sec, I've got to put there it is. I want to share. And This page. Both screens have got the same thing on them, so I'm trying to work out which one I want to share. So hopefully you can see the poll. And the question was, how do you hit your daily protein goal? And what's important about that I'll go into shortly. 133 people said, if I need a quick, easy source of protein, I take some protein powder. Good. And that is good if you're busy, depending on which type of protein powder and how often. So I'll go into all of this later on. I'll just get your thoughts first. 55, I don't know how much protein I should have every day. Concerning, and we'll help you work that out. 24 votes, I'm not sure where to get my protein from to meet my daily target. We'll also have the answer to that. Got a lot of answers for you this week. 15 votes, I know what I should aim for, but I always forget to count. I can feel the difference when I don't have enough though. So I'll also get your comments, please. I'm going to get you all interacting now as homework. Can you also comment, how are you feeling overall? And do you notice when you don't get enough protein, and what do you notice? 14 votes, people said, I hit my protein daily goal by eating plenty of lean meat. 11 people said, I don't know what foods have the most protein to consume without taking protein powder. This is common because people fall into the thinking that everything has to be a supplement, and it's easy because it's on the packet container how much protein is in it, but I'll go into why that might have some pitfalls later on. 8 votes, I'm not too fussy about hitting my daily protein goal. I'm glad that's only 8 people who are not concerned about that, because it's a massive contributor to your long-term success. I can't stress that enough, and that's why we keep featuring protein. It comes up every couple of months that we cover it for new people to the group, and because it is an ongoing thing. 7 votes, I rely on protein powder for the majority of my protein because I can't eat enough protein as food. That's also not unusual. Some people find that eating meat and dairy and that sort of stuff after surgery is not as easy, and that's when they'll default to powders. So I understand that as well. And obviously everything I kind of point out about protein and how to get it in is our ideal, magical, amazing situation, not considering that people do have some difficulty as well. 1 vote said, I've been told to cut down my protein. So there you go. You can overdo it. A lot of people, has been the question before, can you have too much protein? And yes, you can. And too much of anything is excess calories. So eventually those calories will be stored as fat if they're excess. Protein calories are, they have to go through a number of different reactions for them to be stored as fat. So it actually uses quite a lot of energy to actually make it into fat and store it. So that's something that's going for protein, which is awesome. And likewise, it takes a lot to break down protein and assimilate it and sort it. And I'll go into how all that looks as well, because it's a bit interesting. So it is what we call a thermogenic food. It actually, your body needs to work on it to metabolize it and utilize it. And it's, if you can imagine a long necklace, like a string of different links, and each protein molecule goes into the body, and it has a massive, it's linked up with a range of different amino acids. So when we talk about protein, we're really talking about a group of amino acids, and they all have different names. There's 19 or 20 of them. Some are essential, meaning you can't make them, and you need to get them from your diet. Some are non-essential. So non-essential amino acids can be made up from the links in that chain. Body's very clever, breaks it all down and makes it into something else. So there are a few key amino acids that we definitely need, essential amino acids, and that's where collagen falls down. It's just missing one essential amino. So it means it's incomplete. So what that means is if you are relying really heavily on the collagen powder as your main source of protein, you might find that it's incomplete if you're not taking in enough of the complete proteins to actually make up that missing amino acid, which is why I mean, the collagen powder's been amazing. It's so helpful. It's easy. You can't taste it. It's easily tolerated. It's got all of those things going for it. The things it doesn't have is that it's not as good as our gold standard whey protein isolate, which is the best one for muscle retention, immune system, maintaining metabolic tissue, good for fat loss, good for keeping you feeling full, good for immunity, all those sorts of things. So it is, when you're looking at what our goals are, the WPI or the whey protein isolate really speaks to, it ticks our boxes off. The collagen's awesome. It's light, it's easy, you can mix it into coffee. It's really, really lovely. But it's missing that one amino acid. So it's something I would maybe use once a day as a nice to have boost, whereas the WPI, you could almost make a meal out of that if you make it into a smoothie and add some, you know, good berries and some other nutrients as well. You've got a better package there nutritionally, bang for your buck, than you do with the collagen powder. And I'm not knocking collagen powder because it is a godsend in our field, because a lot of the time I can't fit protein in, so the collagen helps with that. It's great for healing. The collagen is very good for your gut and your connective tissues, so it's very good after surgery to be putting that in, because it does help with the healing process as well. And collagen is the basis of our skin, and it relies on vitamin C. So there's a whole chain of events that happen with vitamin C and collagen to make healthy skin as well. So that's the difference. And then you've got meat proteins and plant proteins. And of course, food, always, I'm going to say food sources always come with other bonus nutrients. So with meat, obviously you have iron, you've got B12, you've got a whole lot of other things that you're gaining from that. You've got some healthy fats if you're choosing good grass-fed beef. Has good level of omega-3 rather than grain-fed animals that have higher omega-6. So you can see the difference there. Fish, of course, has a lot of good source of protein. It has its omegas as well. Chicken is also very good. With plant protein, again, you're missing that amino acid. It's an incomplete protein. So you need to be very good at blending your, you know, beans and rice to make a complete. And they don't have to go in together. They're working out now that to form a complete protein, kind of a vegetarian diet, you have a 24-hour window. So if you're having just beans in a meal and no rice with it, if you've had your carbs in that 24-hour period, in the body, in the amino acid pool, those two will catch up and they'll be connected. So all is not lost. It is very, very hard for a weight loss surgery vegan or vegetarian to meet their protein needs, because the diet is bulkier and higher in carbohydrates. So it's harder to balance out the protein that you need as well. That's where maybe the collagen comes in, or protein supplements as well, just to boost that up. But yeah, if you're following a vegan diet after weight loss surgery, you're up against B12, iron, calcium anyway, and then you've added that diet in, which is also very hard to maintain the B12, iron and the calcium, to name a few. So you can be, it's a hard one. It's you'd need someone to really help you to nut out kind of each week what you need. So that's protein. Protein as well is its job is to form muscle, amino acids, neurotransmitters for the brain. So that's what helps to make. So different amino acids contribute to your mood. You'll find that people who suffer from depression or any kind of mental health, they'll put you on a higher protein diet, because that will help with helping you to build good neurotransmitters. If you're on any kind of antidepressant medication and that sort of stuff, the drugs are asking to help make different neurotransmitters, serotonin, supporting the production of these neurotransmitters. People who have like ADHD, attention deficit disorders, anything like that, bipolar, that sort of thing, are relying on dopamine to be produced, and tyrosine is the amino acid that's responsible for that. So a higher in protein diet is actually going to help to balance the brain also. Not only that, we make our hormones from amino acids as well. So I always say, when everyone's like defaulting back to their carbohydrate rich diet, we're not made out of carbs, we're made out of protein, we're muscle, we are hormones, we are neurotransmitters. And that's kind of where we need to think of, is what am I making here with the food that I'm eating? Have I got enough available to make the things that I need? So that helps. What was I going to say? Relying on the protein powders and shakes is fine in the earliest stages, but it's really great to kind of look to aiming for food as your source of protein. Some people are having difficulty with dairy and some meats to begin with, and there's different workarounds for that. Sometimes it is a permanent dairy intolerance. Sometimes it's enzymatic activity that's low. So looking at foods that you can eat, which will help boost the enzymatic activity of your digestion. Things like pineapple, pawpaw, and kiwi fruit are rich in enzymes, different types of enzymes that will help promote digestibility of your food. You can use those with your meals or in between meals as a snack. Just make them your kind of fruit that you select, and it can be helpful. Or you can actually take digestive enzymes if you are finding that you're either passing undigested food. Corn will always come out pretty much undigested, so don't count that. But if you are seeing food in the stool, or your stools are pasty, kind of yellowy, light coloured, it can mean that food is not being assimilated and broken down and absorbed properly. So you could look at that kind of thing as well under guidance. The protein goal, as far as it goes, generally when you embark on the journey, you should be guided as far as how much protein you need, and it does vary depending on your goal weight and your current weight. So I won't give you a definitive figure, but generally it's about 80 grams. Can be higher once you start exercising. If you're weight training and doing that sort of thing, it can be anywhere up to like 1.2 to 1.4 grams per ideal weight. So if you're looking at being an 80 kilogram is your goal weight, you would look at 1.2 times 80. And that's your protein target for the day. So you then break that up into 3 or 4 meals, and you know that at each meal you need probably 20 or 30 grams of protein. Protein also has a limit to how much you can absorb in one sitting. So we usually try and break up your daily need into about 25 gram meals or servings. So a 100 grams of steak generally will have about 25 grams of protein in it as well. So that's another thing to get clear on, is that the meat is not, if you're eating 100 grams of meat, that's not 100 grams of protein. It's about 20 to 25 grams. And the same, fish is just a little bit lower. Beans and legumes are even lower. Someone was mentioning in the group that you can get your protein needs from mushrooms, which I find would be difficult, considering that 100 grams of mushrooms just has 3 grams of protein, and it's again, it's the plant protein, so it would need to be paired. So you'd need to eat a lot of mushrooms to get 90 grams of protein in your diet. Overall, good addition. I love mushrooms. Baked beans are good for brekkie. This month we're doing the protein breakfast challenge. That's going well. I'm enjoying seeing what you guys are eating for brekkie, and I think it's really good to keep that the forefront of your mind, is I'm looking for 20 to 25 grams of protein in the morning, and how does that look for me if I'm busy or not busy? I just default to protein. I just always feel better when I've had a protein breakfast. The research on a protein rich breakfast means that overall, you might eat up to 80% less calories if you have a protein-rich breakfast throughout the day. They did a study on different types of breakfasts, and so I won't go deeply into it, but there were 3 groups. One group got a protein-rich breakfast, and then they got access to a smorgasbord, like a buffet, for the rest of the day. So they had their brekkie, and then they were allowed to eat whatever they wanted for the rest of the day. So they started with like a brekkie that was like maybe wheat bix and milk, and that's about all. So, and maybe a piece of fruit. And those people who had the low protein kind of cereal based brekkie, they ate up to 80% more calories than the people who had a protein rich breakfast. So what it means is that in the morning, if you're eating protein, your blood glucose goes like that pretty evenly. If you're having the Frosties, I'll use them as an example, or Cocoa Pops, your blood glucose goes pew, and then mid-afternoon it just goes bang. And so you're starving. It's that craving 3 p.m. fatigue and hunger and wanting something else. That's what your breakfast is doing generally. Generally, if you have a period of the day where you're really hungry, I look at what happened in the meal 2 meals ago, and I fix that first, and then you'll find that that later hunger is abated. We might just increase that meal that was 2 meals ago by a little bit more fat, maybe a little bit more protein, and generally that kind of tail end of the glucose from that meal is not as steep on the decline. So throughout the week in the group, we'll talk protein. We've got some swaps, different ideas on what to use instead of that would be a beneficial add. Also, you'll see everyone sharing their brekkies. So there's a download you can find also. I think it's at the top of the group this month. It's the protein challenge for the month. There's a form you can print off that then you write down your breakfast for each day of this month. Take a photo of it, share it in the group, and hopefully that inspires everyone to stay on track while we're all locked up. What else have we got? So we've got some comments. I usually start the day with a scoop of tasteless protein in my coffee. That's good because coffee's good. I'd love it to see people starting with food, and some people are not hungry in the morning. And the reason for that might be that there's not enough digestive activity. So you could start with something that's going to stimulate your digestion, like a little tiny bit of apple cider vinegar, or you know, something to kickstart you, or just get in the habit of having breakfast, and that will actually kick off your metabolism to understand that that's what you're asking now. To start the day with coffee only, I don't support it because you'll be hungry later. And if you're a shift worker and that sort of stuff, you know, meals will be all over the place. But essentially, we're looking at starting the day with a solid meal that's got, you know, some protein, some veggies, some kind of fruit, yogurt, whatever it is. But to start on coffee, again, it's like that. It's a kick because it gives you a adrenaline, you know, hit, and it will suppress your appetite. So you think it's filling you up, but it's actually an appetite suppressant in a lot of ways. And then mid-afternoon, starving. So do watch that. You will feel a little bit more full because you're putting the tasteless protein in there. There's zero nutrition in that coffee with the tasteless protein. It's not a meal replacement. It doesn't have anything else good going for it apart from the fact that coffee's in it. So have a look at that. I'm not pulling it apart. I'm just saying that I do see it a lot, that people are not eating breakfast and they're having coffee with protein water or something like that, and there's just not enough nutrition in it. Every time I drink water, I have it with passion fruit flavor protein powder and any food I can mix with the tasteless protein, which is good. Again, just make sure you're not using those protein waters and the tasteless protein as any kind of meal replacement, because there's zero nutrients. It's just protein. Yes, Carolyn says, I think I eat too much protein and not much else. And that can happen because we're so busy putting protein in first. And then sometimes you're full. So that's when you would perhaps break up your meals into, yes, you know, you can only just fit the protein part of it in, and then maybe an hour later have the veggies or have the fruit or something that's, you know, fibrous and has got some of those, you know, plant nutrients in it as well. A lot of it is working out what works for you and your timing. And then kind of working back from there. But yes, protein is the priority. The reason we put it in first is that it tells your body that protein's on board, and it does help you to feel full up quicker. It also tells your pancreas that there's no real need to start sprouting out insulin because we're maintaining the blood glucose levels with the protein. So for fat loss, that's brilliant, because the minute you've got a spike in your insulin levels, you're not burning fat. So the whole reason also that we use this protein and low glycemic index diet is for fat loss as well. Mamushka Mama says, I was religiously adding tasteless protein to everything until I read on a forum that women on hormone blockers after breast cancer shouldn't use it. I would need to do some reading. I can't see the link there. The only thing I could see would be that the bones of the animals that they're pulling the collagen from were treated with hormones. So let me have a think about how that might come up, and I'll get back to you. It could be something to do with that. They don't necessarily use hormones in our animals since 1970, which is interesting because on the chicken in the supermarket, it'll say, wow, amazing, gluten-free, which is bollocks anyway, because who has gluten in chicken? And the next claim they'll make is, wow, hormone-free. And they've not been allowed to use hormones in chicken in Australia since 1970. So there's marketing at work. Go free range. I like free range, and go grass-fed. Or organic where possible, because they have a much better profile of fats. But this one with the collagen, I'd need to look into as far as what the links are between estrogen and collagen. So I'll have to get back to you. I struggle to reach even half my daily protein goals now, as sadly I'm not a fan of meat or chicken. So there's eggs, fish, tuna, salmon in a tin, smoked salmon. There's many other options. Aldi have this beautiful little tiny piece of salmon that's I think it's called cold smoked salmon, and it's like an actual portion. It's in near the dips, and I have that for lunch all the time. It's just beautiful. It's light and it's gentle. So if you're having trouble with the big boy meats, try try slow cooking things. Don't give up. And that's the other thing, is don't give up when it's hard to digest, because sometimes they're the things that will keep you full for longer, because that's why they're hard. And if you listen to, I drew that from Meryl Bond. That's one of the pearls I drew from the podcast I did with her earlier in the year. She's saying the same thing, is people steer away from these foods that feel hard, but they're the ones that are keeping you full because your body's working on them for longer. If they're not making you feel sick, they're just taking up space for longer. Often that's kind of what you're looking for. The other thing I'll say is don't give up on it, because you might have tried meat 6 weeks after surgery when everything was recovering, and you went, oh, I can't do that. So you just stop, but you can't just give it up. You have to keep going back for things unless they're making you really sick. There's change happens all the time, and you can revisit things and go, oh, that works for me now, and I didn't realize. So it's a lot of trial and error, and it gets frustrating from time to time, but it can mean that you're meeting your nutritional needs better. And that's the key, is working out how it works for you. Slow cooking, making curries on the slow cooker, that sort of stuff means the protein in the meat is actually separating better. So it's half digested before you eat it. The other thing is you can look at taking digestive enzymes before a meal to help you with these breaking down of amino acids as well. That's something to look at. Kirsty said, I know how to hit my protein target with about 80 to 90% of it coming from food rather than powder. I just need to be able to eat that much. It's not food actually, but with my pain, yes, I'm eating very little at the moment. I can imagine. And it's a hurdle to get across because sometimes there's resistance to the food because it causes the pain. So yeah, you just have to stick with your team on that one. Laura says, I have a scoop of protein powder in my morning coffee, and then I get the rest of my protein from plant-based sources. I'm never worried about getting enough protein as my bloods have never come back saying I was lacking in anything. I'm glad I was vegetarian before my op, as I've noticed many struggle finding meat alternatives when they can't tolerate it anymore. The adding mushrooms as a substitute to meat chunks as it holds its texture have all the goodness and protein you need. Watch that you're not overestimating how much protein you're getting, because a lot of it's from plants, which is lovely, but may not be complete. And it's, mushrooms kind of have about 3 grams per 100 grams of mushrooms, which is a lot. So good that your bloods are good. You're looking in your bloods, you're looking for protein at about 70 odd as well. But there's other markers looking at urea and creatinine and a few others we look at that tell you about protein metabolism as well. So it's not just a number on the chart. Bernie says, I put all my food into my fitness pal to help me see where I am with my protein. I generally have at least 1 scoop of tasteless and a second if I need it. I start the day with 1.5 scoops of tasteless, and at the end of the day, the same. Count everything else on the Fitbit app. I eat protein at every meal. That's good. I'd love to know how much protein I should be having. So, Lydia, you could say roughly 80 to begin with. They're looking at the research now, actually. There's 2 podcasts I've done, please, if you're not sure on what's going on with protein. There's 2 podcasts I did. Sally Livick, who's incredible. She's a Sunshine Coast bariatric dietitian. I recommend you listen to that one. And also the one I did with Chrissy Freer. She's a PhD and she's studying the impacts of protein deficiency and sarcopenia and that sort of thing. Sally's podcast talks a lot about how we're actually under recommending a lot of the time for protein needs and bariatric patients as well. The podcasts are on the Australian Weight Loss Surgery podcast website. AWLS. Oh, look up here in the, I can't point to it. I'm like, there. AWLSpodcast.com. Got one coming out this week that's a patient story. Leanne, I always want to say her name incorrectly, Haggard. And she's a very inspiring woman. She's met her weight loss goals in 6 months. There's a secret to that. She also runs her own personal development and education business as well. And she was fun and games. She's lovely, done a great job. So don't miss that one either. And then this week we've got another one on fertility. Gabriella Rosa is an absolute fertility genius, and she helps to make babies when all else has failed. IVF, miscarriage, recurrent miscarriage, unexplained infertility. And she also shares those beautiful bubbers on her Facebook, and I cry every time, I think. For people who've tried for 10, 15 years to have a baby and they just have been hitting this medical dead end, and so we enter into, again, nutritional pillars and what's going on underneath that could certainly help you walk home with a baby in your arms. And a lot of women are doing the weight loss surgery because they're looking at having children and they're told to go away until they've lost enough weight. So then you've got this other mix that we talked about, 2 jigsaw puzzles. One of them is obesity and weight loss surgery and polycystic ovarian syndrome and all of that sort of stuff, and insulin resistance. And then you get through that hurdle, and then you've got the fertility journey to hop onto as well. And it's just hard work. Another question about magnesium. I'll post this in the group. This is a protein calculator. It's a good one, and it's a reliable one. I'll do it in a minute. My food data, you just put in the food that you're eating and how much of it, and it tells you how much protein's in it. And it also breaks down the amino acids, so if you're looking at one particular amino. So if you've got any kind of attention you're looking at improving your impulse control and your attention span and your motivation is dopamine. So if you find in the morning you can't be bothered doing anything, and you just can't start the day, and you just find that, you know, you're just not motivated and unfocused, dopamine's somewhere to look. And tyrosine is the amino acid that will build that. So there's different things we do with different amino acids. I use them in practice for a whole lot of different things like sleep, and we use certain amino acids for anxiety and that sort of stuff as well. Oh, does anyone take additional magnesium supplements for muscle cramps? This can be a few things. Yes, magnesium I would look at first. Anything that's twitching or cramping, or, you know, that eye tick, that's often a magnesium thing. If you stick your tongue out and it's quivering a bit, sometimes that's an indicator. It's not a diagnosis. It's just an indicator that you might need more magnesium if your tongue's quivering. Also, the cramping or the sore legs and that sort of stuff can be iron, and it can also be calcium. So have a look at your mineral balance overall. Magnesium will help it. Calcium, magnesium, very good for muscle contraction. So calcium's another player because that's a neurotransmitter for muscle contraction as well. And it keeps your heart beating. So we need to keep that on board. So there's one on our website. I think I answered. It's called Oriental Botanicals, and it's the closest I could offer in an online store environment that's as close to practitioner kind of dosage that I could find without having to have a consult. And it's a powdered form, which means it's more absorbable, and it's a citrate, which we always like. So lastly, we have the prize for Transformation Tuesday, and it is pretty good this week. I think we're pretty generous. Easy snacks. Heaps of room for all sorts of snacks. You can fit a whole boiled egg in there. You can put biscuits and dip. You can obviously put nuts, edamame, cauliflower and grapes in it. Then you've got your 3-compartment lunchbox, and they fold down flat. So you fill it up with food, and when you're done with it, you just fold it down flat and put it back in your bag. And they're all leak proof. So that's pretty cool. Let's talk about the winner, which is also pretty cool. Lisa Marie Polwarth started, this is an incredible transformation, started at 115 kilos and is now nearly 50, she's 56, 55, 57 and a half. Found a new love for going to the gym, wearing lovely clothes, and I've learnt to love myself. Overall, I think that's the win. Look at this incredible journey. Such a transformation. You should be so proud of yourself. And for someone to say, I'm now, you know, big on going to the gym, it's a huge lifestyle change. Well done. So we will, if you are listening, just send us an email to support@bnmulti.com and we'll get your prize out to you. We also post the winner in the group as well, and we tag you where possible so that you don't miss out. So I will read your comments later. I always have trouble catching those because I'm doing live things on the page and it doesn't let me read for some reason. So I'll answer them afterwards. If you could please suggest anything you'd like us to cover in a gangbusting once a month live. It'll still be on a Tuesday night. We're just going to, you know, do a few big features and collate a bit more about what you're looking for learning about. Also, keep posting your protein breakfasts and then look for next month's challenge at the end of the month as well. Coming up, I've got a live session I'm going to do with Dr. Cal Patterson. He is the obesity psych. He's a lovely guy from Sydney, and we're covering life in lockdown. So pretty appropriate. And he'll just talk about things that he's seeing in practice that are coming up now for patients, and a range of other things, and answer your questions as well. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's about all. Until then, I'll post your protein tracker, the stuff about COVID. Give me your feedback, the vaccine information. There's also an article I found today that was brilliant on long COVID. So if you did think that COVID's just, you know, either non-existent or it's just the flu, this one will knock your socks off with what's going on in the longer term. Up to 90% of people are experiencing other symptoms, you know, up to 9 months down the track. and it's affecting up to 10 organ systems in the body. So it, yeah, the more information we have about it from good sources, I think just helps you guys make an informed decision about how you manage it. Until then, mask up, stay home and stay safe. Thank you. Have a lovely week.